Today's Tuesday, 22nd. We very special have a guest. His name is Peter Katz. Come to our exhibit, mini exhibit in Việt Weekly office. Mr. Peter Katz, can you tell us something, your impression about the picture you see right now?
The impression I have is of people in everyday life, growing plants and living their life. Many of these people were born just 20, 30 years ago and know nothing of the struggles and the history of their country, except that they're trying to make a life for themselves in the country they were born in. They have no knowledge of the rest of the world, but yet you see people practicing the same things, horticulture, agriculture, farming, raising livestock. These are people's daily bread every day. You have people singing, you have people that are crews on a ship. I mean, these people have jobs just like you and I in this country, and this is the country they know. These people probably are paid very well because of the knowledge it takes to be a sailor on a ship. So these young girls are happy that they have a job and a good one, and then they're able to feed their families. They want the same things that we want. We want to be able to feed our kids, sleep safely at home, and put our kids to school, and keep government out of our lives if possible. Most people are not involved in politics. Most people are involved in the daily struggle of everyday living. What are they going to feed their family with that night? Simple things like walking on the beach, looking for clams or line fishing or driftwood for a fire. I mean, these are everyday things that people all over the world struggle with, and the human condition is such that much of this has not changed since the beginning of time. We make things a little easier to live by, but we still have to struggle to feed our families, to make a life for ourselves, and still some of the beautiful things you could see, things like trees and the beautiful air and everything. Life goes on, the world goes on, and the horrors of war and history are buried by nature. Nature regenerates itself, and so do people. I mean, people regenerate a culture and start afresh and start new with new hope. And the future generations possibly will change the dynamics once again. But you can never go back and rewrite history. History has a way of evolving. The world changes itself. You look at the human condition, a lot of people complain about things, about the environment, about overcrowding, but humans today are healthier, they live longer, they eat better, and they feel better about their life and the world around them. In the last 1,000 years, wars have gotten shorter and smaller, and people are learning to live together and grow together in the world.
Yeah, but the special things happen here is the first time this picture so friendly and openly for Vietnamese community to take a look closely at this matter. But you think you are the outsider when you look at the picture, how you feel, about the matter now? Our community to talk about it. They believe that Vietnamese government try to sell land, sea stuff to the Chinese government. What do you think about that issue?
Well, the disputes between countries are the same like we have between the United States and Mexico, the United States and Canada. I mean, trade agreements, whether we agree with them or not, are usually made for the benefit of both parties. Countries fight over natural resources. I mean, In the past, it was over land, then it was over oil, then it'll be over water and food. And here you see there's lots of opportunities to drill for oil in these waters. And there's a lot of fish in these waters. And all these countries involved, whether they're Vietnam, China, the Philippines, Japan, they all want a piece of that. Russia, I mean, they all want to claim that water because it has a lot of valuable resources and minerals and food in there. And each country claims it as a territorial right. I mean, we do the same thing in this country.
You are the soldier used to fight for in Vietnam before, is that right?
Excuse me?
You are the soldier used to fight in Vietnam before?
Yeah, I was part of the Vietnam conflict, and it was a misunderstood war and a misunderstood time, and it was something that happened a long time ago, and it's part of history now, and history needs to be told, both the horrors and the mistakes, and we fought a civil war in this country. It was brother against brother, and we cannot undo that. I mean, but we live together now. I mean, from the horrors of the Civil War came the Civil Rights Movement. We have blacks living with whites side by side, just the same that you would have here with Chinese, Filipinos, and Vietnamese living side by side someday on the same island, perhaps, in a community where everyone can get along and shop in the same markets, and look at New York City, 8 million people in 23 square miles, every nationality, every language in the world live together in harmony every day. And there's no reason why the whole world can't do that.
But look back the history is now. What do you think Vietnam and USA now very close, and so we they both tied together and for the better future. What do you think about Vietnam and USA now close?
I think that the United States and Vietnam, the trade ties will continue to grow, and ties will strengthen between the United States and Vietnam, just like they did with our former enemies, the Japanese and the Germans. They're our strongest allies today. And the horrors of the war have been put aside for the benefit of both countries, for all people. We came to the aid of the Japanese during the big earthquake and tsunami, and we helped build the German economy after the war. And war was started by politicians, not the German people and not the Japanese people. And the same thing with the Vietnam War. It was started by politicians and rich oil men looking for exploiting natural resources, and it continues today. The Chinese are exploiting natural resources in the South China Sea, and Vietnam wants a part of it, so does the Philippines, so does Japan. Japan went to war over oil, and they're continually seeking oil. Oil will continue to be part of the world economy for the foreseeable future.
So you think this picture will tell a lot of information. As a reporter, you think we should go more and more to bring back to the community those news for people to have their view to decide what happened there in Vietnam? You think so?
I think these kind of journeys help people understand the problems that arise from situations like this, and it's cultural pride and economic development that comes out of these things. But I think it's the job of the journalist to tell the story, the true story. And what you see here is the story of everyday struggle. You also see the possibility of natural resources being exploited, and you see the possibility of political adversaries exploiting the people as well as the land. So for the average reader to understand, it's a great job for journalists to explain all the issues involved, that it's not just about people and government, it's about the natural resources, it's about the human condition, and it's about the way we live in general in the world.
So some people says we weren't set up by the government to lead us and for their propaganda, and we just go there to help them to split out their news. It's not good, not healthy for our community here. What do you think about
No, I think I disagree. I think a journalist's job is to educate people. And yes, you go to another country, they're going to exploit and show you only the good side. But that's the job of a journalist, to see through the charade that's presented and see the real side. The good journalist goes out and gets the pictures that the government tries to hide. They look for the pictures that tell the everyday story, the real story of how people make a living and how they're surviving and how the government treats people. And by sitting back and looking from the outside, you can't see that. You have to go as a reporter with boots on the ground. You have to be on the front lines. You have to be the soldier. You have to be the seer. You have to be the observer, and you bring back the truth. I mean, it was the journalists that exposed Watergate in the Nixon administration, and it was the journalists that uncovered the horrors of what was happening with Saddam Hussein in Iraq, and it's the reporter that goes to Afghanistan and sees what the Taliban was doing. It's the reporter that puts their life on the line to tell the real story, and the story has to be told from the boots on the ground. And this is the way Vietnam was told, but unfortunately way too late.
Okay, the last question. As you are the outsider, you have nothing to conflict with our community. What you can tell our reporter, media, and also the Vietnamese who live in the conflicts with Vietnam and government in Vietnam. So, what do you tell about that?
Well, I think we have to understand the animosity and hatred takes a long time to die. It takes several generations, and we have to understand the hardships that our culture and our people faced in coming to this country, and how the government has changed over there. But keep in mind, many of the people of today that are in Vietnam were born after the war, and the same thing here in Little Saigon today. Many people here do not know the struggles of their parents and grandparents, and the Vietnam of today is not the Vietnam of 1975. It has changed. I have been in Southeast Asia, been in Korea and Japan and the Philippines, and if I was to go back today, I'd be shocked at the modernization and the change that has come in transportation and in food and the way people live, and the clean hospitals that are now developing around the world. And I think it's a good thing. I think that all governments, you know, Thomas Jefferson once said the worst form of government is democracy, but it's the best one that we know that we have right yet. So we're constantly struggling to change government. And you see the problems in America. We haven't solved all the answers. Democracy is not the answer, you know. Neither is communism. So we don't know what the best answer. Maybe it's someone's kid today, being born today, that can come up with a better form of government and a better way to live among ourselves.
So you were in Vietnam a long time ago. If you have a chance, you will come back there to...
I'd love to go back and see how the country has changed. And you're never too old to be educated and to learn and to see how change happens and how change occurs, you know, whether it's for the good or for the bad. Unless you're there and seeing it for yourself, you really don't know. And that's why the journalist is there to tell that story. I mean, we can't all be there. So if the journalist is honest and he's on the ground or her, and they get a bird's eye view so that we can see through their eyes what the real story is and not what the politicians want us to believe. So I just think journalism, we need a strong, independent media that can tell the whole story, the real story, and not be afraid of the ramifications or repercussions that come its way. A good journalist, a good story, a good book is always about the brave and the courageous and the honest people that want to tell the real story.
Thank you, Mr. Peter Katz, for your comment.
Edit it how you see fit. But yeah, it's wonderful. It's great.